Welcome to The Hats. The Hats is a weekly podcast hosted by licensed marriage and family therapist and author Melissa Dumas and attorney and business owner Kerri Harper-Howie. Listen in for practical tips on how to keep your hats upright, how to handle life when one of your hats gets lopsided, and plenty of real-life solutions to help you balance the many hats you wear daily.
Hello, and welcome to the Hats podcast. My name is Kerri Harper-Howie, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hi, Hatters. My name is Melissa Dumas. Thank you for being here and joining us again.
Hatters, here we are again in the Boss Babe, Boss Bitch season. And today we're talking about confidence. And of all the things that I think ring consistently true for all the boss babes and out there, I would imagine that there is a level of confidence that runs through their veins, right? And I really think confidence sits at the seat of so many of the things that we do, because at the end of the day, if you're going to be a boss and you want to do something, you've got to go into it not necessarily confident in the outcome, but confident that you can do the thing you set out to do, or you can build the team that you set out to build to do the thing you want to do, right? So today we're going to dive a little bit deeper on the topic of confidence. And I don't remember which of us put this on our list mail, but talk to me about why you think the confidence hat belongs in this particular season, the Boss Babe season.
Yeah, great question. I don't remember whose idea this one was, but we're here. I think confidence is important whenever we talk about any form of leveling up, elevation, which is what we've identified the Boss Babe, the Boss Bitch hat or season, to be. And so I think that if you're making a choice to be a different version, a better version of yourself, that is going to come with a level of confidence. And for me, the confidence, originally when I was thinking about the episode, I was thinking like confidence in like appearance or physical confidence, but no, it's confidence even in knowing what you're talking about. It's confidence in even knowing what you're doing. And I think that when we lack confidence, we show up as a very different version of ourselves. And I think that when we lack confidence, we tend to settle for what we get rather than going after what we want. I think that when we lack confidence, we show up in a way that is a little bit more timid, that is a little bit maybe even people pleasing. But when we have confidence, this assurity of like, this is who I am, this is what I bring to the table, this is what I offer, this is my business, this is my beauty, this is my shine. It comes with this like level of like bravado and this like, walking into the room with your head held high, and not in a way of like lacking humility, but just this assurity of like, I am who I say I am, and I am who God has designed me to be. And it's so funny. I'm even noticing as I'm like talking about this level of confidence, I feel myself sitting up with these shoulders and like, yes, girl, that's it.
I mean, I'm sitting here watching your rise into your seat, and I'm like, she's going to levitate and be out of this office at any moment, right? So, okay. So you've kind of talked already. You've obviously read my questions, but you talked a little bit about what confidence means to you today. I'm interested, Mel, in has your definition of confidence evolved over time, or has it stayed kind of in the same place over time?
It has definitely evolved.
Okay.
Even when I think about like physical confidence, I've always like, there's never a time in my life where I felt ugly or like I'm an ugly woman. Some days I feel like, girl, you just ain't got it today. But never in my mind, like I've said, those things like about my physical appearance. But over time, it has definitely grown. And I think when I have felt the most confident, three things have happened. Age has happened. Like there's something that shifted in me when I turned 30, and then there was something that shifted in me when I turned 40. So age and maturity within that. But then also what has helped my own confidence is my fitness journey, like getting to a place where I feel completely just comfortable in my body. And that ebbs and flows too, because, during certain times of the month, we're a little bit more bloated and you just feel kind of blah, but just overall, just feeling more comfortable in my body. And then when we feel comfortable in our body and comfortable in our clothes, we show up differently. And then the other area that has shifted from the version of me to the woman I am today was my own healing journey.
Mm.
Walking around with these things that I hadn't talked about, or these worries or these concerns that I didn't want to share or didn't think were worthy of sharing. And then being able to just like completely cleanse out some wounds, it shifted me and it did a 180 and it made me into more of the woman that I know that I am.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I've only known you in what I have viewed as a very confident you. So I don't have the privilege of seeing that evolution, but I would imagine that that rings true for a lot of people, that we experience these varying things in our lives. And we'll kind of talk a little bit later about moments in time that, in particular, where your confidence may have been shaken. But the capacity, I think a part of the confidence comes from having gotten to this point, right? Which really is, as you already have said, about the passage of time and about age, the capacity, the ability, the willingness to reflect on where you've come from, right? I think that that is so much about what I will say also my evolution of confidence and belief in myself. I will also say for me, I think my definition has changed over time as I have become what I would define as more of an expert in things.
Mm.
I don't think I was ever that. I think I've always been very aware that I have ability, but I've gotten to a point in my life where I can say I'm an expert in this. Not in all things, right? But I can say I've been through this, I've solved for this, I've gotten through this, I've helped someone else with this. And so I think for me, also the experience, the wisdom, the knowledge, knowing how hard I've worked and being able to reflect on, I didn't just kind of skate into my current life. I've worked really hard. I try, and I still to this day try really hard to be better, to do better, to know better. But I have gotten to a point where I can say, I didn't used to know. I wasn't confident in this, but I am now far more confident. The other way that I feel like my confidence has changed over time is quite honestly relationship confidence. I have historically been much more confident in the classroom, in the boardroom, in the crew room, in the conference room, whatever it is,
The
the
courtroom.
courtroom. I'm walking in there and I knew I was the baddest bee up in there, right? Or I can fake it until I made it, right? Because that level of, I can, first of all, I've always had a passion. I've been lucky enough to find myself in careers that truly I am passionate about. So I'm passionate. I want to be the best. I want to learn. I want to know. And so I am able to show up in those spaces with all the confidence in the world. Leadership, I can walk into a group. I'm scoping it out. I'm going to be leading that group because in that environment, I thrive. In relationships, I have struggled with confidence tremendously.
Mm.
I have struggled with self-worth and believing even that love, like that, I don't even know that I ever questioned that unconditional love existed so much as like, what is that? And I've always believed that love came with and had conditions. And so for me, I can be completely honest and say that evolution has happened directly as a result of therapy
Mm.
and as a result of now being very fortunate to be in a relationship where I can explore these ideas in a safe place. So my confidence, has kind of taken different trajectories, I think, when I think about my personal life and my professional life.
Mm. And you bring up such a key point about how confidence can show up differently in different parts of our lives.
Yeah.
That we could feel like I'm confident here for you, in your case, your professional life, but lacking some confidence in your personal and your relational life. Or even to the point of like faking it until you make it. That person who shows up and they're confident, they do their work, they're confident in personal relationships, but then behind closed doors, they're challenged with some things that no one else knows about, or they don't feel like who they say they are. And so I think that that's such a key important piece too, that like while the goal is to feel and to have a level of confidence across across the board in all areas of our lives, that we can also feel confident in one area and lack confidence somewhere else.
Absolutely. It's not it's not a through line
Right.
all the way through, and all the various ways of ourselves. And, would, you bring up such a great point, because people make so many assumptions when you walk into a room with confidence. They make so many assumptions about that through line,
Right.
and they assume that it's the same way. And someone who walks into a room with all the confidence and is ready to lead and is ready to, to move and shake in a professional space, or a group, or a leadership space, but has extreme challenges in that area, and pain, and things that we don't imagine, which is why I think, they say, people who are experiencing all sorts of difficult and painful things in their personal lives, you may never know. You'd be
Right.
shocked,
Yeah.
right? So, I just say that to say, never take it for granted, or assume that because you show up in a room in a way, and you see others showing up, that they can't relate to your experience, and that you can't potentially be vulnerable to say, I'm confident here and I'm not confident there.
Right, absolutely. And giving yourself permission to be vulnerable for that. And as you're talking about, this person who walks into the room and they're confident, the word that came to mind for me was like, oh, she got her shit together. Like she has it all together. And so the visual that came up for me, I never shared this with you, was one evening we went to the gospel fundraiser at was it, what church was that at?
West Angeles.
West Angeles, the McDonald's gospel fundraiser at West Angeles. And when you walked into the room, I still see the outfit. You had on a black blazer, I think some black pants. I don't remember what shirt. I don't remember if it was black or yellow, but that bob that day was bobbing. The bob was bobbing, y'all. Like she just walked and the bob was like, I'm a paid actor. And the way that like, when you walked into the room, that people was like, oh, there's Kerri, there's Kerri, there's Kerri, there's Kerri. And like, like they either wanted to meet you, or either they wanted to make sure that you knew that they were in the room, or to say hello. It was like this level of confidence, like, oh, she got her shit together. And, and then for you to sit here and be like, y'all, professionally, yes. But it wasn't until therapy that I was able to get that level of confidence in relationships.
Yeah.
And so I just want to highlight that, like, yes, we can make assumptions about people and we just really don't know. But the beauty is, like you said, being able to be vulnerable, to say like, I'm confident here, but not there. And I'm working on it, or I've worked on it.
Yeah. Has there been a moment, Mel, where you felt you particularly had to work on it because your confidence really had been shaken?
Absolutely. A variety of places. The one that comes to mind for me, I'll give a professional example. When I got trained, so I've been in the mental health field for over 20 years, doing therapy for a very long time. When I got trained in EMDR, it was a very new model. And while I was super excited, I was definitely fumbling and bumbling with my clients when I went back to implement this new model, and felt like I didn't know what I was doing, and then to have that shaken up when you've been doing something for so long, and now you're changing the trajectory and doing it differently, it knocks into your confidence, and you're trying to be in the moment, but then also execute the model according to the way that you've been trained. And one of the most freeing things that my trainer told me during that time was, learn the rules so you can see where you can break them. And that helped me to learn it to the way that it was taught, but then also to add my flavor to it, to add who I am as a clinician to it. But I definitely lacked confidence for a very long time. And even look back to those clients that I was helping while beautiful work was done, I know that it would be implemented very differently now. Like, thankfully, we still got to the end result, but it definitely would be less like bumbling and fumbling. And when you don't feel like you know what you're doing, it shakes your confidence. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. Like, can they tell? Like, it definitely shakes your confidence. So I think that would be a place. Another area would be, after I had children. I don't remember how old my youngest was at the time, but I was in a place where I was just really unhappy with my body. And to the point where I would choose my outfits accordingly. I would wear something and say, okay, well, I can wear that because it covers my belly, it covers my arms, or I'll wear those pants because they make me look slimmer. And so I was choosing things out of my closet based on what hid me the most. And then I got to the point where I was avoiding the mirror. And then that for me became my what's the word I'm looking for? That was not bottom line, but my
Epiphany?
rock bottom. Yes, yes, that was a pivoting point for me. That was my rock bottom. Like, girl, you're avoiding the mirror, and you're only wearing like a fourth of your closet because there's so many things that you want to hide. And I lacked confidence in that. And one thing, and maybe this will be something for another episode, when we don't feel comfortable in our body, it not only just shows up in our physical appearance, but it shows up in so many areas of our lives. Without, too much TMI in this episode, it was also showing up in my relationship with my husband. Like, I didn't feel sexy, or if we were intimate, I was like, hurry, but let me grab the covers. I can cover up. And it didn't allow me to just be open and free as the woman that he had known me to be.
Yeah. I mean, I have certainly been in that space multiple times in my life where I could not kind of reconcile what I wanted my body to look like with what it actually looked like. And it just felt not right. I didn't feel confident. I have so many things, like I have so many phrases in my head that when I walk into my closet, it's like, okay, what about the waist? And then what about, like, or I don't know about phrases, but like things that go through my head as I'm trying to figure out. And when you're in a space, and I remember I was in a moment where I had lost some weight, and a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you've lost some weight." And my response to her was, "I can wear everything in my closet."
I love that feeling.
And that is, for me, is the best feeling. And, my closet has, some size 4s and some size 12s. So it's not even so much about the size or the, what piece of clothing it is, but it's really that mental piece of knowing I can go in my closet and wear anything I want to. So I can definitely relate to that. I want to say, as surprising as it may be to some, because I think I show up as a very confident mother, motherhood has shaken my
Mm.
confidence in so many ways. I am constantly questioning whether or not I am making the right decisions, doing the right things, saying the right things, having a left eye contact. Like, I feel very low. I still feel, well, I won't say I feel low in confidence in being a mom, because at a minimum, I know I try hard. And for me, that gives me confidence to know that I'm trying. But, this massive piece of my life is an area where I truly question. It's hard for me, and I've heard so many times, and it's interesting because I believe it for other people, but it's hard for me to truly believe I am the exact mom that my kids need for me to be.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's something fundamentally true about that, but it's hard for me to truly absorb and live that. And, so I would say that would be an area where I feel like my confidence, because I remember, when I was getting ready to have Caleb, I was like, Psh, I got all the stuff, and I'm going to do this, and then we're going to breastfeed, and like then I'm going back to work. Like, I had all the confidence of the world, and that little sucker got here, and I was like deer in headlights, crying all the time, like just not even know, high anxiety, all the things. So I have, fortunately over time kind of settled a little bit. And obviously these things get easier when you have a second kid and as time progresses. But I would say that's probably one of the biggest areas where I thought I had the confidence, and then my confidence was shattered, and I continue to try and massage the pieces back together to try and be the best mom that I can be.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing that you did do as you prepared for motherhood is you took the classes, you did
Yeah.
the mommy and me, you did all of those things, and even joined like the mommy groups, like many of us do. And so, knowing what I know to be true about you, you prepared yourself. And so, when the reality of it didn't meet what you prepared yourself for, it's like, wait, now I'm shaking. Like, this was not in the book.
Right.
This was not in the book.
What chapter? Because
Right.
I surely didn't read that chapter. I fell asleep. I don't know. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And so, I just think you make such a great point that you can do for many things all the preparation in the world, right? But and can be walk into a situation confidently, and your confidence can be shaken. But at the end of the day, right? I'm momming every day.
Right, right,
You're,
absolutely.
so have at least hopefully the confidence that your preparation gets you a significant amount of the way there. And something else that I feel like people have consistently told me is the sheer preparation already puts you, light years ahead of where you otherwise would want to be. So
Mm.
just to, and that preparation isn't all, it's so funny that you said it, you took the classes, and I'm like, I'm always taking a class for something.
That's why I had to bring it up.
Always taking a class. But, whatever your form of preparation is, there's a good chance that you won't be able to fully prepare for the thing, and your confidence will be shaken. But, putting one foot in front of another, you can kind of keep getting there. So go ahead.
Funny story real quick about taking classes. So when my oldest was when I was pregnant with my oldest, excuse me, I took a breastfeeding class,
Mm.
and I was telling my mom and my aunt about it, and they were like, girl, a breastfeeding class, just put the baby to the titty and let it eat. And they were like, why do you need a class on
We are over
Right,
informed.
we're definitely over informed, but at the end of the day, it was helpful.
Of course it
Was
was. It
helpful.
absolutely was.
But just so funny about, your statement to like, I'm always taking a class. Like,
All
yes, I took a breastfeeding class, and my aunt and mom were like, girl, put the baby to the titty and let the baby eat.
and let the baby eat.
And the other thing I want to remind you of is something that pastors already told us, that like with motherhood, it's not going to be perfect. We're not going to do it all right. And I love when he reminds us and other new parents, just like you're saving for college, save for therapy. Save
Check
for
that one
therapy.
off the
Yes.
list. Yes. So, okay. I often talk about my imposter syndrome, but I want to put it to you as it. So I'll speak from my personal experience after you have spoken. One, either from your personal experience, but also from, your extensive work with clients who I know probably struggle with this. How do you reboot your confidence when imposter syndrome and self-doubt start to creep in?
That's a great question. I'm a big fan of self-talk. And so I will choose words that are kind, that are loving. I will fill myself with like truth that I know to be true, like affirmations, positive affirmations are great. One thing, and we've talked about this in previous episodes. One thing that our dear friend Sivan taught us, the expert, if you will, of imposter syndrome, is to keep receipts. And so I do keep screenshots in my phone, and I have a whole album for it of positive things that either people have shared with me, or positive reviews, or positive texts, or emails from clients, just to anchor me and remind me, like, I am that bitch. Yeah. I am
She
her.
right here.
She's right here. And sometimes we need those little reminders, because things will come up that will shake us. And even yeah, things will come up that will shake us. And so we need those reminders. So those are some of the things that I do. The other thing that I do is I go back to what I do know. And something that I've always done, but I've been more consistent with doing, is before I set the stage, before I meet with the client, is to start that moment or that session with prayer, not with anybody else, but for myself, that whatever God is calling me for in that moment, or whatever he wants me to say or to share or to be or to do, that I am open and a vessel for that. And so however it flows when I walk off that stage, because I have some moments I'm like, oh man, I don't feel like I really shine like I wanted to, or I don't feel like I said what I wanted to say. And it's just like, you prayed, and whatever came out is what God wanted and needed to come out. It wasn't about me in that moment. And so I try to go back to that as well. And then I also, like to be honest with myself too. Like if it's something I need to study or dive more into, then I give myself time for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Because that prayer or meditation, or that moment of kind of speaking those positive things into yourself, speaking those positive things to God, or speaking them into the universe, however it is for you, that moment of quiet and those extra breaths that you're taking can really settle your spirit,
Yeah.
settle you in the moment. And you can go back to that and say, I prepared myself for this, and it was what it was. And I think for me, that is probably one of the biggest tools that I use for my imposter syndrome. So just like if I use the motherhood one, the motherhood example, I often say to myself, whatever it is, some child is worse off than my kid. So if I don't know, if I yell at my kid, some kid got cursed out, right? I don't curse at my kids,
Yeah.
right? So it could be worse if I allowed my kids to eat a bunch of junk food. Okay. But last week they had a lot of vegetable. So I try also when that imposter said, like, you're not doing the right thing, you're not good enough, you're not worthy. I try to remind myself very specifically. I'm not as diligent as you as like keeping the receipts from other people, but I do try to remind myself of to ground myself in the reality.
Oh,
Because not so often, all the time, the imposter syndrome happens here. It happens between your two ears. It's a conversation of you being down on yourself. And so you almost, to me, the battle has to be done up here as well. So you've got to really be able to hopefully find some specific, I don't know, comparators or examples or other things you can point to or think about to ground you in the reality of the situation. We in another episode talk about being an author, right? The truth is, as I was writing my book, I was like, nobody's going to want to read this. This is going to be garbage. It's not going to be helpful. Well, at the end of the day, there is a chance that one person might read it and be inspired. So just ground yourself in the reality of the fact that your mom has an amazing story and it deserves to be told. That alone is enough. Okay, then let me get back to it and I can write. So I really kind of doing what you can to pull yourself up from that down place that the imposter syndrome really wants to put you. That to me has been something that I've been able to do, and it takes a variety of different forms depending upon the context.
right.
Yeah.
One other thing I'll add to that is with imposter syndrome, if we can separate ourselves from that negative voice, then it makes it a little bit easier to separate ourselves and to dive into the reality or to ground ourselves. So even if separating ourselves meaning giving that imposter syndrome and that version of us a name,
Mm.
and rather that name is like your inner bully or your inner hater, like if you could personify it, then it helps you to fight it a little bit more,
Yeah.
because one thing that we know to be true too is no one says more terrible things to ourselves than ourselves. And so if we can look at that as like someone saying those things to ourselves, then we can kick them in the butt. Like what you're not about to do is come over here and talk to me crazy, you know? Just like we would say that to anybody. Like if I came in the room and said all those things that you say to yourself, you'd be like, Mel, like what? Like one, you'd be like, where is that coming from? That is not you. And then two, you would stand up for yourself. Like you're not going to talk to me like that.
Right.
And so sometimes we have to hold that level of boundary and that level of assertiveness or even aggressiveness with that inner bully when imposter syndrome comes along. And the other thing too is I want to normalize imposter syndrome, not normalize it like let's keep it around, but if you're experiencing it and if it's tapping into your confidence, then know that it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. And it's doing it because you are amazing, because are doing amazing things, but we have to do our part with taming it and we have to do our part with keeping it at bay so that we can keep showing up doing those amazing things.
And I think recognizing that you're not alone.
Right.
I think that's why I often feel people are always like, "You're so honest. You're so authentic." I can't be anything else, and I think that makes you relatable. Your willingness to say, "I don't think that I deserve X, but I'm here and I'm taking X and I'm going to live with X." It really does remind you and others around you that you're not alone in feeling this way. Because I think imposter syndrome can also make you feel very alone and isolated. And it can just be very insulating. And so uh, to your point, Mel, to kind of normalize it, not again to keep it around, but just to know you're not alone
Right.
and that you can get through those doubts. There are things that you can do. There are ways to separate yourself from it, because other people are not just, we're not only on all on the other side. We all are on the other side because we've been there too. And we do feel like imposters sometimes. And, you know, imposter syndrome changes over time, right? It can change with your environment. It can change with the people that you're with. It can change with a new job opportunity. It can attack you in particularly low moments. You've lost a job. You you actually did make a bad decision with respect to your kids, and then it's like, see, I knew you weren't a good mom. You already knew that, and now it's proven. And so there, that's going to happen to you and to pretty much everybody around you. So know that you're not alone, I think,
Right.
in that.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. Um, so, what is one habit, mindset shift, or boundary that has helped you to step into your confidence more fully?
Hmm. You're so much better at this kind of stuff, Mel. So this is what I will say. I don't know that I have a particular habit or boundary, but what I can say is what I think I consistently do to restore my confidence and to live it more fully is to remind myself of where I was, where I am, and the fact that I know I can go somewhere further in the future. And that, again, what I say to myself of that nature, or what I say to myself to do this, depends on the context. So I'll use one moment where my confidence also was shaken, was when I was making the transition to becoming a franchisee. I had been a successful lawyer for years, loved lawyering, was the only thing I ever really wanted to do. And I was at a great company, all the things, right? I was rolling. And then I was like, lawyers don't do math. My family has this incredible legacy. I'm going to jack the whole thing up. Like, what am I going to bring? I struggled a lot for a full year. It took me a long time from the time I was considering it until I was like, all right, this is I'm quitting my job. I have quit my job and now I'm going to work with the family. And so I think for me in that moment, it took me a while. So that's the other thing I'll say. Confidence isn't necessarily built in a moment, right? Confidence can take time and experience and intensive exercises and thinking. It doesn't always happen with the snap of a fingers. It might take some work, and I think that some people underestimate how hard you have to work sometimes to feel that true confidence. But once I kind of did that year's worth of thinking, getting advice and insight from my husband, from my sister, from other lawyers who had kind of transitioned from being lawyers into other careers. And so for me, it was about, what are the things that I've ever wanted to achieve in my life that I've not achieved? And I couldn't actually come up with one.
Mm,
And so that me knowing, reminding myself that I'm a hard worker, that I am diligent, that I'm willing to learn, that I'm teachable, and that I go into this with total humility. Well, I don't know if I went with total humility, because I was like, I'm a lawyer. How hard can this really be? And then it kicked my butt. So maybe I wasn't fully humble.
but you
Sorry.
got humbled.
But I got my hat, my handed to me, girl, at that fry station. Woo! So anyway, yes. And so I think that my again, maybe I'm repeating what I said in response to the last question, but my exercise is to remind myself and to ground myself in the reality. And the reality is, I wanted to go to law school and I killed it in law school. I wanted to practice law and I was a really good lawyer. I wanted to be on dance dimensions in high school. I made it onto dance dimensions. So for me, I just have to go through that list of things. And, for some people, finding that list of things might be hard. And so I think your strategy, Mel, of making sure that you document those receipts, because you might have to go back and read through it, because you might be so mired in the imposter syndrome that you can't quite get out of it. And so you need an external motivator to get you out of it. So for me, that's what I do. With my kids, okay, the kids are healthy. The kids are getting good grades.
They're alive.
The kids are alive. They're breathing and they're doing some things. So we can probably get through this season of applying to school. I am so nervous. I'm like, have I have I prepared him? Have we done all of the things all that make me doubt and not believe that I've done? Well, we've gotten through it before, and we've matriculated to different schools. So probably we're going to be okay. And the result every time has been my children have landed in a place where they've thrived. So all of the doubts that I have about my ability to navigate this next stage are probably just doubts that are happening in my head. Roll with the reality.
Yeah.
I think that's my practice.
I love that. And because you're a researcher, you do your research.
Yes.
And so knowing that you are a strong researcher is like, I made the best decision but based off of the best of my research. And actually, as you were saying that part, a song was put into my heart. And it's an old song. I don't even know like how old or who sings it, but I remember singing it in church as a kid, or my grandma singing it, and it goes, "Done all I know how to do, done all I know how to do, Lord. Now I'm waiting on you." And so just that reminder, like, all right, I did all I know how to do. Now the rest is like divine intervention. The other thing too that I heard you say so loudly, which I noticed about you, you know it about yourself. The woman in you, the lawyer in you likes evidence. And so when you go back to think about, has there ever been a time that I wanted something and went after it in my life and I didn't get it? That's evidence for you. And so you like evidence. That's what grounds you.
Much to the dismay of many people around me.
The evidence says.
Right. Sanford will be like, I don't have a reason. I
Right.
don't have an explanation.
Yeah.
This is just what I think.
Right.
And I'm like, what are how many times, what are the facts
Right,
upon
right,
which
right,
you are
right,
basing
right,
that
right,
statement?
right.
None.
He's like,
I'm
it's
just saying,
intuitive. I feel it. It's the vibes
I
for
know.
me.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I love that you pulled that out because that's such a great word. It resonates with me very deeply. So for me, looking at the evidence is what helps me. So that's what I'll say. You've given me my habit. My habit is I look for the evidence.
Yes.
So what is yours?
Ooh, good question. Mine is doing the work. And when I say doing the work, the level of confidence that I gain from waking my previously not a morning person, but up every morning consistently, no days off, Monday through Saturday, going to the gym to work hard, to get healthier. I sought out to lose weight. And what I gained in that process, in that transformation was something beyond weight loss. And no disrespect to anyone who has decided an alternative route to lose weight, but the confidence that comes from working that blood, sweat, tears to get to something, whatever that something is, not even weight. It could even be a job, or it could even be getting into college, or having your parents take your SATs versus you taking your own. Like the confidence that comes from doing the work yourself, it cannot be purchased. It cannot be bought. Like you may have confidence like, hey, I made it, I'm here. But there's something that happens in those dark hours when you're sweating, when you are researching, when you're reading, when you're heart racing, whatever that is, that grows in a way that doesn't grow anywhere else. And so for me, it's that. The other place where that confidence grew, again, an example of putting in the work, was in therapy. Like there was no book that I could read that could pull me out of some of those things. There was no conversation with a friend that was enough. There was no, I'm a therapist, I do this work all the time, that was enough. Like I had to put in the work myself. I couldn't send somebody else to do it for me. I couldn't listen to a podcast to get out of it. Like I had to go into the mud and get out. And then just that experience alone helped to build confidence. So for me, The confidence grows when I have put in the work.
I love the two examples within that. You said that those moments in the dark and you are sweating and you're working it out. And then you said something about like, you're in the mud. And both of those things just make me think that flowers grow in the dark and they grow from mud.
Yeah, the lotus.
And so that really, that is where you see so much beauty. And you said it also, unexpected, the unexpected, unintended consequences of the work. And like you said, the work can take so many different forms depending upon what you're trying to do, where you want to go, etc. The work means different things to different people, but actually going through it, I mean, I love that visual of through whatever it is, those darkest moments on the floor of wherever you are, there are flowers and beauty that are growing out of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I'll also add to that one thing that my own therapist taught me, and I now teach it to my clients, is that confidence is a muscle. And so even if you're listening today, Hatters, and you feel like, I just don't have that confidence, or I don't have that level of confidence that Kerri has, or that Melissa has, or that my other colleague or friend has, that it's a muscle. And one thing that we know to be true about muscles is that they grow when we feed them well, when we work them out, and when we nurture them. So even though you may not have the confidence now to step onto that stage, you may not have the confidence now to write that book, you may not have the confidence now to say, I want more from this relationship, that it is in the practice, in the dark, in the mud, that confidence grows.
So, Hatters, I hope that you have taken away from this, hopefully, so many things, but really, what I want to say is you see us now, right, on this new video season, and you see other people in your lives that are walking bastions of passion. Walking bastions of confidence, right? You see them and you're like, that person, as Mel so beautifully put it, has their shit together. And yet we work at it. We have moments where our confidence muscle is as weak as can be. We continue over time to develop it, to work on it, feed it well, and nurture it. I think that's what you said. And know that you can too. And know that you will have peaks and valleys in your journey to becoming the most confident version of yourself. But whatever it is, just keep moving through them. Keep doing the work. Keep finding your habits that help you overcome your imposter syndrome in the moments that it hits. And we are confident that you will find a more confident version of you. Thank you so much for listening. We tip our hats to you. The information in this podcast is provided for general informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal, medical, or therapeutic advice. Listening to this podcast does not take the place of developing an individual relationship with a therapist or attorney. If you need help for mental health or legal issues, we strongly encourage you to find a professional in your area who can help meet your individual needs.